All right. Hope the day's treating you well so far, and thanks for checking out a bit of What Was That Radio, and in this case, a conversation with Mr. Dan Campbell, the lead singer and the band leader of a band. How many times am I going to say band in quick succession? That deserves a rim shot. Known as the Wonder Years from America. Fuck yeah. Oh, sorry. Fuck yeah. I like to cover up when I clear my throat. That's about right. The Hum Goes On Forever is, and I'll be honest with you, it has been such an incredible day. I have major crashes of energy after I have such a fulfilling conversation. And even though Dan and I only spoke for about 20 minutes, adorably, as he was waiting in the car to pick up his son from school for the day, I'm like, yeah. And then about 2-3 hours after it, I'm like, I fell asleep on the couch. We were watching Nailed It, a baking show on Netflix with Jodie and Harley. Jodie, my partner, Harley, her 8-year-old son. And then playing some piano whilst the fish was dancing. The catfish in the tank was sort of wiggling around as we're doing some E minor, E major, flip it around, and it's like sucking across the glass. I'm probably going to regret doing that. I'll give you another option. There we go. And so I'm just blissed out and chilled after an awesome day and recording the intro. And then I'm going to jump on and do the old Song of the Week situation for those that might not have any idea what that is. When I have a Song of the Week choice via whatwasthatradio.com, I do a deep dive video for patrons via patreon.com/whatwasthatradio. Should you be interested? Come on down. Did I say the 7th record is called The Hum Goes On Forever by the Wonder Years? Let's dive into this conversation with Mr. Dan Campbell. And thanks for being here, for goodness sake. I really appreciate it.
I had to pick up my son at 5:30, and this interview was scheduled for 5 to 5:30. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just do it in the parking lot of his school.
That's awesome. No, I really appreciate it. It's I just quickly got on the motorbike, ran back from work because I worked in commercial broadcasting for a decade. And then at the start of the pandemic, I thought it would be a good idea to push my passions to their utmost and to leave the commercial scene and to build my own online radio station. And so I work stacking produce around the corner. So I just quickly jumped on the bike. My boss let me come back to do this, and then we'll get on with it after that. So there's so much we could cover, and I'm just thankful for the 20 minutes to start with. And maybe in the future, if this goes well, then we can keep diving into the detail, because Dan, I adore context, and I adore just diving into the very roots of where things come from. And I think important context for you to know about me is that I'm bipolar, and that I've been through some horrible instances of being abused as a kid. And that greatly shaped how I went about treating people and how I went about treating myself. And you've spoken so openly in the press release and so openly in the last few months with these singles about the poignancy and the urgency of needing to share where you're at. And so I'm a believer in, you don't necessarily get an answer just by me being here. In speaking to you, I'm not going to necessarily get answers without giving you the context of a little bit about what I've been through. Because the first thing that I wanted to throw at you was that on Burst and Decay, with Passing Through a Screen Door, you sang, I don't want my children growing up to be anything like me. And you, on this new album, tackle just, you need to push through and find ways to deal with who you are, to exist, and because of the love you have for your family. And how do you compare yourself to Burst and Decay a few years ago to now where you're at with the family growing and through the pandemic, and this whole album that comes together that is absolutely outstanding?
Thank you very much. So I should mention first that Passing Through a Screen Door was on The Greatest Generation, our 2013 full length. And then we remade it along with 6 other songs for Burst and Decay, and then another one. So that's the context is from a decade ago now, which is like kind of what's interesting about it, is like going from that song a decade ago to, you know, now a literal full decade later from the moment that we wrote that, and seeing the way that my world has like expanded and changed and shifted. But I think that line was especially just kind of about depression, about being someone who's like kind of always a little bit of a rain cloud, right? Just like always a little morose, always kind of feeling like a general malaise, having a lot of trouble extracting joy from like anything or anyone, and thinking about the fact that like that feels hereditary to me. in a lot of ways. Like I've noticed patterns of that throughout like generations of my family. And so understanding like, oh, if and when I have children, they will likely inherit that in some way, you know, potentially a lesser way, potentially a greater way. But and then now to be here and to have, you know, like I said, I'm sitting in the parking lot of my kid's school waiting to pick him up. I think, you know, you realize like what you can and can't control, and what I can control is to try to give him like this like positive, loving environment. And he literally is just like the sweetest kid. So, um, you know, and we also have Jack, who's about to turn 1, and doesn't have much personality right now aside from determined and hungry.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, it's hard to see which way that's going to go.
I moved in with my partner Jody, who's got an 8-year-old son Harley, who I've known since he was 5, and I've been here for a few years now. And they've let me go from the office little cupboard upstairs into the living room for the radio station part of things, which is why I'm very lucky to have this wonderful floral 70s inspired room.
It's
But
a really cool room.
what I thought from, I mean, I'm in my mid-30s now, and I had moved to Canada from England nearly 14 years ago because I wanted to try and figure out, okay, who am I? I've got all these multiple personalities. I've got this aggressive up and down, very quick to be very, very sad and not wanting to be here, very quick to be just over the moon and so manic and happy it's ridiculous. I wanted to try and find grounding and peel away and figure out who the fuck am I really, and just chill and push that passion with that understanding of self forward. And then when I met Harley, it just reflects so much stuff that I thought, oh, I've dealt with this. I know how to manage this. I know how to do that. And he has shown so much just by existing and being young and ferocious as a kid, you know, like I need food, or I need this, or help me with this, or help me with that. Come play this, come do that. And I've grown so much in 2 years alone just from him and his guidance. And what would you feel that you've learned from your two so far?
Uh, Patience. Definitely some patience from them, or like the need for patience. I think that the thing that like really struck me the most was that like I have the capability beyond what I thought I did to push through things for them. And so like to have children, especially now, right? It's like I've had these kids like during like a well, I'm sorry, a global pandemic, during, you know, there's rash of mass shootings here. There's, you know, political upheaval. There's climate change, all these terrible, scary things everywhere. And some days you wake up, and I have in the past thought, why get out of bed today? And I would have just stayed there. And now it's like, okay, well, why get out of bed today? It's like, well, because they need me to, right? Like someone's got to make them like eggs, that part. And so like, just that I can do it because they need me to do it has been a cool thing to learn.
Were you a chef, an aficionado in the kitchen before the kids? Is there anything that you've learned? Because I do a mean pasta now. I thought I did a good pasta before. Now I'm just learning new skills all the time. I could do roast meals now that I couldn't before. There's got to be something.
I had a lot of kitchen jobs, right? But I was
Okay.
always knife guy, not oven guy. Right? I was a lot of prep cook stuff, and so I'm really good at cutting shit. Like that's like I love being my wife's like prep cook. Before Eve's like, oh, we're gonna make dinner, like I will chop all the vegetables, or I'll like fillet the meat, or whatever we need to do. But once it gets to putting it on the heat, I'm gonna fuck it up 100% of the time. I'm just so bad at it. I don't understand it. I'm like afraid of burning myself constantly. As far as like practical skills, because I'm realizing now that the question maybe had some of that to it as well, as like at the beginning of the pandemic, when I was like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do? Right? Like we can't like even like, how am I gonna entertain this kid? I built a garden box, which in and of itself is impressive for me because I am not very handy. I built like this raised garden bed, and then we planted a garden in it, and grew basil and peppers, and then we were going outside, and we were like, okay, let's go pick some basil because we're going to make pesto tonight. Or like, let's go pick some peppers and we'll chop them up and put them on our salad. And like, that was really cool to like learn how to do that. It was cool.
I can't. That's where Jodie's incredible. Like when she built the initial first studio in the old bedroom cupboard, and I was just like, this is just giving me, it's just freezing my brain looking at someone work a jigsaw and measure and build desks and whatnot. Harley loves picking out little bits of salad from the front flower bed and bits like that to put salads together in the evening. And it's yeah, no, there was no trick to that question. It was just, I don't, to be honest with you, Dan, I haven't planned anything. Like, I've listened to your music for 15 years. And if I was to sit down and try and actually make a plan, I would have so many and we wouldn't fit it in. So I love just the fact that we can just go with the flow of these 15, 20 minutes, you know? And as I said at the start of this, maybe in turn, you're like, maybe I'll speak with this guy again. But I think it's imperative that you know that your vocal performance on this record, for me, and I'm just me, just one singular human specimen, but your vocals on this record are the best, the most powerful, the most authentic I've heard in your career. You've got this new depth and this new mid-lower range that has appeared in the last couple of years here that I don't know if that's just from the fatherhood and being like, oh shit, I got to get up, or where it's come from, but you have found this lower register that didn't exist. And a song where I think that is showcased so beautifully is Songs About Death. I mean, that and also Laura the Beehive. My God, the juxtaposition between Laura the Beehive, it just sticks out so beautifully on the record. But where is this new depth of vocal come from?
Just from work, man. Just like I am kind of determined to get better every time. It's like just one of like the kind of like tent poles of like who I am and like how I want to attack like making art. It's like it's got to be better every time, right? And like you got to be better at it. If I'm not doing my best work each time, then I feel like it's not valuable enough to put out. If I'm not, I don't want to turn in a record and go, that's my like third best record. Or that's like probably the third best Wonder Years record. Like that doesn't really work for me. And so we've always said, like, if it's not the best one, then it's not done. There's work to do on it. And I feel that way about every aspect of it. Like, I want to be a better lyricist. I want to be a better singer. And it just is like, what can I do to develop that? Like this record, I put more effort into my falsetto. I put more effort into my like low middle register. I put more effort into power, into vibrato, into just kind of all these aspects. And I went in really confident in how I wanted to deliver things. I think it's like a kind of a thing with our early records with Steve as the producer, who did produce a lot of this record, but like he was such a legend, you know, Lifetime, Dillinger Escape Plan, Every Time I Die, all these like massive records that he's done. And so I kind of went in a little timid and just kind of let him tell me how to sing things and how he wanted to chop them up and comp it. And as I got older and more confident in my voice, and then especially going and making the Aaron West stuff that I do with Ace Enders, like Ace is like such like a cheerleader where like I would do a take and he would be like, holy shit, man, it's perfect. Don't even touch it. I was like, that was one take, bud. Like I looked do another one for safety. But like he really like gassed me up, made me feel like I could do it. And so with that confidence, and then with all the work I put in, like the confidence I've got from working with people like Ace, and then the confidence of like starting to see Steve more as a friend and a peer and less of like a coach or a mentor, on top of the confidence of like knowing I put a bunch of work into my voice and how it was going to sound, I went in ready to sing it. Just was like, this is how I want to deliver this line. And sometimes Steve would be like, hey, I'd really like you to do it this way. And I'm like, I will try it. But like, I want veto power at the end of it. Like if I liked it, if I do it your way, and then I liked it better the way I came in prepared to sing it, I want to go back to that. And we had probably ended up 50-50 on that. Like we definitely made some changes, but yeah, knowing what I wanted to do in advance and feeling like I could do it, like I had the capability, was big.
The band that I used to be in, we were at a festival a few years ago before the pandemic, and Jordan and I, guitar player, would share like a blow up mattress in the tent if we were out and about. And we woke up in the middle of the night and the mattress was out. And he said, oh, don't worry about that. I got the biggest lungs you've ever seen and I'll blow it up with a still on it. And he did. And I use that example because it feels like your lungs grew by 25, 35%. Like you say that you put the work in, but I going back to my start here with context and particulars, your voice has grown like 10 years in just a couple of years in power and strength. What did you do particularly to make that happen?
One of the things I've been doing, and I actually did it about an hour ago, is I get on the exercise bike and I get to a 20-mile-an-hour pace, and then I sing through our set at 20 miles an hour.
Okay.
And it just like, it just kind of helps me to know how much air I need for certain notes, right? Like sometimes I was putting too much air into notes and it was pulling me sharp. Sometimes I wasn't supporting enough. I think that like it helps more for live than for recording, but those kind of things cycle back in and out of each other. And like, you know, you play live and you adjust how you sing things and you come back to the studio and you sing it a different way a little bit. But part of it is like when you're playing live, you are playing breathlessly because you're kind of jumping around and the adrenaline is up and like you're tempted to use different muscles and like fall back on like kind of lazy habits when you're tired and do things that aren't so great for your voice. And so training my body to be ready to do it while I'm out of breath, while I'm covered in sweat, while I'm like gasping and still be able to support that note has been like pretty important to me and important to not losing my voice. That was big because the tour we did in February and March, we were doing 2 hours a night, which is the longest we'd ever played. We're doing 2 whole records and an encore. Excuse me. And if I had not done that conditioning beforehand, I don't know what would have happened to my voice because my body broke down on the tour. I was having like dizzy spells. I had like pulled something in my neck and shoulder and like had to be like literally like lifted into my bunk at night for for about a week. Just like, so that stuff, I guess I had not conditioned enough, but my voice I had.
That's insane. As you described that, that's so cool that you shared that. Thank you. I just picture like Joey Jordison when he was pitching to Slipknot all those years ago. I've been training for this. I can do it because I've set up a drum kit across 5 treadmills. And you turn me upside down and all around. We're good to go. Because I'm just thinking as a drummer, like, how the hell do I get that kind of conditioning at the gym? And where am I going to build that in the cul-de-sac? I don't think they're going to let us do that. That's bonkers.
I think a little bit though is like drumming. As long as you're hitting hard, you're probably, you know, it's a closer corollary to what you're going to do live.
Yeah.
But like, because you're already going to be out of breath. It's an athletic endeavor, no matter how you do it. But the difference between me standing still and like rooting through my feet and like looking at a microphone and projecting into it in a studio, and then like climbing some trussing and hanging off of it and singing at Riot Fest. So very different situations
Yeah.
that I'm putting my body in. You know, whether, you know, adrenaline, yes, right? Like maybe the tempo picks up, sure. But you're still sitting at a drum kit one way or the other.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm in a pretty different scenario.
No, that's completely fair. Thank you for putting me back in my stool, my seat. I know that
Your drum seat.
Yeah, I was trying.
You could do the Travis Barker thing where it flips upside down. Yes. He used to have that drum platform that would like go upside down over the crowd. So that's like the work to hit the drum when you no longer have gravity working in your favor. That's a challenge.
Yeah, that's just next level world-class ability and lunacy, to be honest with you. Complete lunacy. And when did you say that your son's out? In 5 minutes, or I want to be...
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Okay, right. In which case, and I'd love you to speak a little bit to, just selfishly, as a couple of my favorite songs on the album with songs about death and Laura the Beehive. What are you proud of in those 2 songs? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Laura and the Beehive, the first thing that comes to mind is restraint, which is a thing that we have a lot of trouble with. We love dynamics. And so if you listen to our stuff all the way up through to the first song we probably were able to show restraint on in our entire career was Flowers Where Your Face Should Be on Sister Cities. Every other song up to that, even if it started slow, it always explodes. Oh, and everyone has to come in. We all want to play. And that doesn't always serve the song best. I mean, a lot of the songs, I'm really proud of the way that happened, but like, it's not always the answer. And one of the things with Laura and the Beehive was understanding like the song can be special with just piano and vocal. Like that might be the key to it. In fact, we don't have to bring in the drums. We don't have to bring in the guitars. We can hold ourselves back a little bit and give the listener a moment to breathe on this record before that home stretch. Because sequencing is pretty important to us as we look at albums too, and how it ebbs and flows and like what kind of listening experience it is as a whole. Like if you sit down and say, all right, I've got 44 minutes, I'm going to listen to The Hum Goes On Forever. I want that to be like a cohesive and thoughtful experience with like dynamic ebb and flow to it. and like the placement of Laura is important to that. Songs About Death is what comes to mind first is that it was supposed to be the bridge of Old Friends Like Lost Teeth. It was not supposed to be a song.
Ah.
I came in with this idea for that first verse, and then the kind of like, and then I was like, and it'll get like heavy after that, and that'll how we play out Songs About Death. And everyone was like, we like it, except that it feels like insane not to do a third chorus in Songs About, or in Old Friends Like Lost Teeth. Feels like crazy to not do that. And so, but like everyone liked the piece, and so they said, like, what if we just make it its own song? Like, why can't it be its own thing and kind of be in conversation with Old Friends Like Lost Teeth? And that's how that ended up working out.
And to go to the point that you just shared a couple of minutes ago, when it comes to the particulars in ordering the record, I agree. You've nailed it. I think it's absolutely stunning. And I think that I love that now I've got that tidbit about Songs About Death, because Old Friends Like Lost Teeth, the impact of that song after the Beehive is just even more spectacular because of the moment before it. I mean, it's just, and then to hear that just within 4 songs and Low Tide squeezed in the middle, to hear that tickles my fancy. I like that a lot. I think that's wonderful. It's just such a powerful record,
with a lot
man.
of thought.
Sorry, I spoke over you.
Oh, so I spoke over you. You're the host.
I said it's just such a powerful. I did it again. Sorry, no. I'll get back to you. Sorry.
I was just going to say that I think we just, everything we do is thoughtful, right? Like as far as making the record, like there's no part of it that is like, I don't know, fucking put it at track 6. It's like, it's very methodical. Like I am a little bit of a psychopath for like this kind of shit. And like, I took every song on the record. This is where I'm always afraid to say this, because I think that sometimes people think it takes it too outside of the realm of art and makes it too like, I don't know, almost sciencey. But I took every song on the record and I gave it a rating for like dark to light, right? Like how is the song a darker tonal song, or is it a brighter song, a brightness rating? And then I gave every song an energy rating. Is this a calmer song, or is this, one that makes you want to jump through a wall? And then I took all of those and I put every song on like an XY graph and looked at how it dispersed across the record, and like visually said, this is what a Wonder Years record should look like. This is how it should be spread across brightness, how it should be spread across dynamics. Once I could look at it and say that like it is where it is visually, is how I knew that the record was done.
I love that you shared that. That is fucking sweet. But now getting that context is so key, because you can tell the care that's gone into the organization of the record when you go through it. And also the fact that Old Friends Like Lost Teeth is one of the singles, but yet is the penultimate song on the record, tells you that you got yourselves here a really fucking good record. Like that's, if I'm just going off of the singles, right? And then everyone, because it's not even out yet, a few more days yet at this point. Well, tomorrow, for God's sake, it's the 22nd already. This month is flown by. Yeah. Oh yeah, because you're on the other side of the country. Yeah. Or the continent or whatever. North America. I got there eventually. Good God. But no, I'm cognizant of the fact it's school time. Jody is, I think, still in the house, so we got to go and get Harley from school right now as well. I would love if you're down with it, to connect again in the next month or so once it's been out and reflect back on it, because I could speak to you and I've wanted to speak to you. I use want positively, not expectantly, for many years, and I just think now that we've had this chance, there's so much more I want to dive into if you're willing to.
Yeah, happy to. I think we have a couple crazy weeks coming up, but it starts to loosen up like late October, where I can like take a breath for the first time in like 6 months. So I'm looking forward to that, and we can talk around that.
Yeah, well, no, what's going to happen is you'll take a breath times about a month and a half, and then maybe late in the year or early next year, that's when we'll reconnect, because it's just paramount that you just chill the funk out, get some grounding of family time, and then we can get to
I don't know. I'm not so good at chilling out. But yeah, hit up Sarah and let's find some time.
Awesome. Dan, you're awesome. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you.
He's an absolute flipping sweetheart, and he and his band are so ferociously talented. It was a thrill to finally, after all these years of wanting to speak to Dan and Mr. Campbell, get a conversation with him. I'm looking forward to reconnecting whenever that is in the future. And a massive thank you, as always, to Luther's Radar and the publicists, Sarah and Natasha, who have been amazing to me since I left the mainstream media. and dived into doing my own independent thing the last few years. So thank you to you two if you're watching this. And otherwise, if you wanted to dive into more conversations with broken love, maybe psychedelic porn crumpets, maybe spiral drive, planes, and so many more, just go to whatwasthatradio.com/podcast if you're intrigued and interested. Otherwise, whatever you do in the rest of your day, and as always, please look after yourself, and I hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of it too, because we've got to cherish that positive. Thanks again, and cheerio.